Bitter buckwheat, it doesn't sound very appetizing. And sure enough, most people who try eating it find it pretty unpleasant. Yet one man has established a business based on bitter buckwheat and is doing very well out of it. The reason for his success is the bitter buckwheat's medicinal properties.
At the end of May every year, Li Yiwen travels from Taihu County Town to Huating Lake. He comes to buy a plant that he uses as a raw material in his business. Financially, the local farmers do very well out of his visits.
这个呢味道苦，它为什么苦？就是这个壳子里面呢，提一层苦，提一层是什么东西呢？青味素。
The plant is bitter buckwheat. The locals used to ignore it. Bitter buckwheat is a member of the wild buckwheat family. It grows in the northwestern and northeastern regions of China. Bitter buckwheat grows widely across the Dabiashan mountain region of Taihu County. The bitter, rough taste of the buckwheat put people off eating the flour. But things have changed since 2003, the year when Li Yiwen found a new use for the bitter buckwheat. The price has risen as a result, until it now costs the same as rice. However, bitter buckwheat is produced in far smaller quantities than rice. The farmers have made use of the tidal land on the shores of Huating Lake to expand the area planted with bitter buckwheat. The annual output in Taihu County is now over 3,000 tons, sufficient to supply Li Yiwen's needs. After the husks are removed, the buckwheat is milled. The powder is then stir-fried. The final step is sterilization at a high temperature. Bitter buckwheat powder is a convenience food. Li Yiwen's processing removes most of the bitterness. Li Yiwen got into the business after his retirement in 1997. But first, he was involved in the wire cable business for 2 years, from which he made a fortune of 1 million yuan. But when that business began to stagnate at the end of 2002, he looked around for something else. Then fate intervened. A vice mayor of Anqing fell ill and was taken to hospital in Shanghai. The doctors asked the family to find some bitter buckwheat.
要搞那个苦荞嘛越城里越好，搞过几十斤到上海来。
The quantity was sufficient to attract Li Yiwen's interest. He did some research and learned that bitter buckwheat is sugar-free and rich in edible cellulose. It was particularly effective in treating diabetes and stomachaches. In addition, Li Yiwen took into account the growing popularity of coarse food grains. So he decided to go into the bitter buckwheat processing business, producing a powder similar to sesame powder. In March 2003, he and 2 friends launched their bitter buckwheat processing project, using total investment of 500,000 yuan. Li Yiwen's idea was to market his products in big cities and major supermarkets. In June 2003, a client in Hefei gave him his first purchase order, worth 10,000 yuan. Li Yiwen was thrilled. But then he came across a problem he had never anticipated. His bitter buckwheat powder simply refused to dissolve in water. Li Yiwen's plan had been to produce a powder that could make an instant drink. Many similar health products were on the market, designed to suit the faster pace of modern life. Li Yiwen decided to visit Hangzhou to inspect factories there with similar products. Some friends arranged for them to tour a factory in Hangzhou that produced lotus root paste. Lotus root paste, as a form of starch, is different from bitter buckwheat. So when they started to conduct experiments, they had to adjust the ratio of the various elements in the formula. But they failed to find a solution, and Li Yiwen was forced to invite some technicians from the Hangzhou lotus root paste factory to come and help. Finally, the problem was solved. Li Yiwen then had to worry about other things, such as the marketing. He wanted to focus on people suffering from diabetes and stomach aches. Before long, bitter buckwheat was being recognized as a local nutritious specialty. Some people included it in their long-term diet. Thanks to its unique functions, bitter buckwheat powder was soon selling well in the surrounding area. Li Wen decided to work with some local retailers in Taihu County. By selling to them at a relatively low price, he guaranteed them a 20% profit. One shop selling local specialities on a major thoroughfare in the county town now sells 100,000 yuan worth of Li Wen's products annually. Li Wen is delighted because all his retailers are working so hard to promote his products on other markets. And yet, he doesn't pay them a single penny. One of them has even introduced the bitter buckwheat powder in Beijing. Li Wen doesn't have to deal with the shops or supermarkets. His life is becoming easier as his business flourishes.